Hi, it's Jay from the Wand Garden and welcome to my channel. This is my first tutorial and I'm going to show you how I made this cute little pendant from polymer clay, rose quartz and green kunzite. Alright, for this, just get the light up, yeah. For this pendant I'm going to be using this piece of green kunzite for the bottom and then setting it with a rose quartz cabochon at the top. I've got some Primo brand polymer clay in pearl. I've also got some liquid polymer clay here. I've got the Sculpey brand again, Bake and Bond and translucent. I usually use one or the other, mostly Bake and Bond to set the stones. You'll want a rolling pin, a cutter, circular cutter, and various tools here. I've got like a blade tool, some ball tools for smoothing things out. I've got this little, you see that? It's got tiny little spikes on it. It's good for making moss. Can't see that, can you? Okay, get the idea. More ball tools in different sizes and a flexible clay cutter. Okay, so let's get started. So I start off with more than I think I'm going to need, and then I kind of strip it back. So we've just got to make sure it's really nicely conditioned. So this might take a little while. Alright, so the clay is nice and soft, ready to work with, and then what I want to do is take off a little section of it for the bail. It needs to be a fair amount really, because it needs to be strong. I'm going to go a bit more than that. And just set that to one side, and now make a nice ball with this. And then kind of tilt your hands and roll it into a slight cone shape. So you end up with something like that. You want it quite even. Yeah, okay, so when you're happy with that, roll it out. This is to the thickness that you'd like it. I'd say not too thick, but definitely not too thin, because it needs to have integrity, with enough beef in it to hold the stones. You can just sort of make it into a nice shape with your fingers like that. Got a nice oval, and then take the bail part, and do a little sausage. See, like that kind of shape. This might actually be a bit too big, but it's okay because I can cut it back. You'll see as we move on with it. And then again, just get the rolling pin and flatten it slightly, but not too much. And I find it's best to just taper it down at the ends a little bit as well, because what we're going to do now is take something circular like that, whatever you've got hanging around, pen or anything, and then just curl it over and pinch it. Now wiggle that out because it can get stuck quite quickly. So yeah, you've got something like that. Not focusing, is it? There. And then we want to take a ball tool. I'm using one about this size, and I'm going to smooth where the join is. Can you see that? Just making it all one unit. You can get your ball tool inside as well and just really seal the clay together. And you can make that quite flat because that's going to sit nice and flush on the base of the pendant. Turn it over, do the same on that side. Use your finger to just smooth it over. And you get into the middle as well. Basically making a little loop out of clay. And then I like to get my tool back in there and open it out. It's a bit big, that one. Let's find something smaller. I find it easier to do this bit now because I used to do it once it was attached to here and it's just more fiddly. There we go. And then push your thumb in to give it a nice little point to attach to. And then we're going to take our base and just line it up. Right at the top there. And then squidge, squidge, squidge. Now I like to take a bigger ball tool here, but you can use your finger or whatever. Smooth it all down. Right, and now we want to make sure it's fused together nicely from the back. A smaller ball tool, pushing it in. Smaller again as you go around the side, get a smaller ball tool on that. And then again just sort of smooth it over with your finger. Alright, so doesn't matter if it's a bit rough, to be honest, at the moment. But I would like to clean my edges up here, see where it's overlapping. You can kind of smooth that down a little bit and give it a bit nicer shape. Okay. Right, now lie it down. And at this point I like to take a bit of clay off of that because it's quite bulky. It doesn't need to be quite that big. I used to leave them like that, and then I got into just kind of shaving them down a bit and making them look a bit cleaner, and I quite like that look. So I'm just taking my flexi clay cutter here, putting it on an angle with the blade side down, and just taking a little bit off the side there. And then the same on that side. It's a bit difficult to get it symmetrical, but you just got to sort of do your best. There you go. Something like that. And I like to just pick it up again and see what's happened. See, this is all squidged back in. So yeah, I just kind of keep doing this throughout. I'm just working it back in there, making sure you've got a nice hole for your cord. And you see there, I want to just close that gap to make sure it's stronger. Need a bigger tool than that. That's better. And just smoothing all the way. Alright, so it's taking shape. This is on the wonk actually, so I'm going to just twist this back. And that's nice. So I'm going to start to line up my stones now. Right, now that's good, but quite honestly I don't have the length to do this in the bottom, so I'm going to stretch this out a little bit further with my rolling pin. Let's get some more light. And then sort of lengthen it, because there's plenty of clay there. This is why I like to start with it a bit thicker to begin with, and then you've got more to play with. Okay, now let's try that. So this will sit there. Which way round do I want that? Let's go like that. So yeah, I've got just about enough room, maybe a little bit more. I need a bit more room. So I'm just going to keep teasing it down, smoothing the edges. Also, every now and again, just lift it up and make sure it's not real super stuck to the work surface, because I've had that happen before and it's really difficult to get it back up. I'm always just smoothing as I go. Alright, let's try again. Alright, that is looking better. But we might need to build up some more clay around here to make sure that it's properly secure in there. I am going to roll it down a bit further, because this is quite thick, so you don't want the bottom too thin, otherwise you're not going to be able to work around it. And this is fairly thin, so you don't need as much at the top to keep it balanced. Just a bit of trial and error, this bit really. It's a little black bit I've got in there. That's the one thing with light coloured clay, you can get little, pick up little bits of who knows what. Right, anyway. Yeah, that'll work nicely. Okay, so to set it, I'm going to take my bake and bond, just put a little bit on the back of your stone, spread it around a little bit. It will squish out the sides, but you can clean it up. Now this will stay kind of wet and slippery until you cure it, so it's not like glue where you get one chance, you can wiggle it around. But that looks good. I'm going to press it in, and then I just like to kind of tease the clay up around the stone at the sides. Oh, it's moved. Right, now I do want to just take off a bit of this excess here. Yeah. Okay, so I'm happy with that. I'm going to move on to setting the Kunzite. So again, same stuff. I'm just going to, because this is rough here, you don't want any holes, because when you cure this, any holes can potentially cause a bang in the oven. I haven't had it happen to me, but it has happened. Can you see how rough that is? Nope. Anyway, so I'm just going to make sure that I fill in all the gaps here, so it's just solid and there's no holes. Also, with stones that have got like bubbles in them, they can explode in the oven. Right, let's stick that in there. Oh, which side do I want? Oh, that side's nicer. I need to put it on the bottom as well, actually. I've only done the top. There we go. Now this is going to be a case of sort of like pushing in and up with that. There we go. And then working it up around it. Got excess again here. Just smoothing it up around the stone, blending it into the sides. pushing it down to make sure it's firm and it's about the right height as well. And you just want to try and get it as symmetrical as possible either side. Right, I'll try and pick this up so that we can give you a closer look. See, already it's deciding it wants to stay there. Okay. Alright, so you can see I've just smoothed it down at the side. And while I've got it up, I'm going to just really gently use my finger to work it down here. And while we've got it up, we can just check that everything's good around the bail, that you like how it looks. More smoothing. Okay, now what I do like to do, and that probably doesn't need it, but I'll just show you anyway. I quite like to keep it really slim these days. I used to make them really chunky, but I quite like the idea of just less clay and sleeker designs. So I just shave off some of the very edges. It's subtle, but it does make a difference to the finish. Not too much. There you go. And that's looking good to me. Alright, now it's getting on to the fun bit. I think I may add an extra little stone into that. I've got some small rose quartz cabochons as well, and I think it would be nice to add one to the top. Like a little third eye. But you know what? I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to keep it simple. I'm not going to do that. So I've got a tiny bit of clay left, and I'm just reconditioning it because I want to frame these stones. And to be honest, I think I'm going to need more clay. Not a huge amount, this is just decoration now. Got our base. This stuff isn't too bad to condition actually. Right, we need a very small little ball. And a rolling pin. Roll yourself out a little bit here, and then I'm going to take my circle cutter and cut out a little leaf. Just like that. Smooth off the edges. And this is going to sit right on the top here. Yeah. Just like that. Now things can be picked up and moved at the moment, so I'm not going to squish this down because sometimes I change my mind. I just go with the flow. I never make the same thing twice, so it's all a bit intuitive really. I don't plan anything. We just see what happens. So I want to shift this out the way now. I'm going to make some spirals or some big long worms. Make sure your clay is nice and soft. And then just start to make a little sausage shape. And then transfer it. I'm going to move that out of the way so you can see what's going on. Clean my surface up. I'm going to make some long snakes. Just kind of gently roll in and stretch in. Trying to keep it as even as you can. To stretch it out, I tend to just hold it down and then really gently just sort of tug from there. If you sort of pull the whole lot like that, you'll get weak bits. So it's best to just hold it and pull. That's what I find that works anyway. Now I think this is going to be a bit long for what I need, so I'm going to half it. Straight down the middle, because I want to make that even thinner again. This is what I like about working with polymer clay. I've been working with epoxy sculpt recently, and it air dries and it's a lot harder to get fine details. So going from that back to working with this clay, it's a dream. Alright, that's pretty good. Yeah, I'm happy with that. So let's just get this extra one out of the way and bring this back. Now, I again just make this up. I think I'm going to create a spiral at the top here. So to do the spirals, so you can see, I like to use a tool with a little curve in it like that, and then I just tease the end around with the back of my tool and my finger, just making a nice curve. can zoom in here. And then just try and close it up. Here we go, I'm coiling it round, making sure it stays flat. It's probably big enough because I want this to sit on the top of here. Right, and we're going to go for it. So I'm going to place my spiral at the top, and then I'm just going to start snaking this round. However I feel like it. I might wrap this round the bail. Right the way around the back. And I just want to make some really visually pleasing lines here. But again, don't worry about pushing it down yet, because if you make a mistake you can always pick it back up again. Going round my rose quartz. Now I could go down this way or I could go up. Ooh, what do I want to do? I think I'm actually going to carry on up and frame the rose quartz. Now there's a little bit of an indent here, so I'm just going to push that down. Yeah, because I won't need to move it again. Okay, now when I get to here, I want this to end now. So what I can do, if I'm careful, is to get my knife, the blade, and line it up. Make a little incision. Oh, always hold my breath then. Yeah, to make that join look a bit more seamless. Now I want to push it down a little bit. And that's nice. Right, and the rest of my little worm here, I can make some nice pretty... Do you know what, this is quite a nice thin piece, so I'm going to use the bigger one. I've got to move this out of the way again. Okay, let's roll this one out, because I want that to be about the same size. I'm just trying to sort my zoom out a minute. Oh, see exactly what's going on now. Okay, let's zoom in a bit more. Bear with me, this is the first time I've shot a tutorial, so it's a bit of trial and error. Okay. So you're going to just work out what looks best, really. I'm going to try getting my little snake in the centre, pushing it down into the little dip, and using my finger just to create a nice shape around the Kunzite. Oh, this doesn't have to be symmetrical. It looks better if it's not, actually. So you can make some nice quirky shapes. That's not perfectly framing the stone, but it doesn't matter because we can put some extra details in there later. That's quite cool. Right, and now I'm going to curl this around. And this can come up the other side to create some nice shapes that way. Sorry, I'm moving out of the frame. And at this point as well, you can just check that everything's lining up and there's no little gaps here, that you can't see a stone on the outside. So the one that was round that way, I'm going to curl, so they're basically crossing over at the back. So I'm doing one, they're getting all tangled up now. There we go, so that is coming around that side and that one is coming around there. Because then we can make some nice little spirals and whatnot up the side. So yeah, just make it up. Just have fun with it, play around so you like the way it looks. Creating another little spiral here. Not sure where to let it sit yet, but I might adjust that in a bit. I'm going to go to this side. I want to bring that together with this side a little bit more. Hug it into my previous ones. I think another spiral up there will be good. Now I am not happy with that because that is not going to lay as flat as I'd like, so I'm going to pull it back up. I'm going to lay it down. Once upon a time that I would have been fine with that, but I'm getting a bit of a perfectionist these days. So I'm trying to take the time to correct something if I'm not 100% happy with it. So I can just create in my spiral again, really delicately curling it around, making sure it's all staying on like one plane. Do you know what? I'm going to bring this up close to the edge of this one. I'm going to turn that round. And push my spiral into here, and I am much happier with that. In fact, I want to go and change this side now, because something isn't working here for me. So I'm gonna gently take this off, and this is the beauty of this. It's perfectly malleable until you want to cure it, so you can just do what you want, really. So I want another little spiral, but I reckon I can get away with doing this one with my finger. Yeah. Yeah, and I quite like that. Yeah, it needs something else up here, but I'm going to get to that. And I want to just let those sit flush as well. But not on that side, just on that side. That's what we got so far. And then I want to just push my stone and everything in again, just to make sure it's all properly secure. And I'm going to take my previous spiral. That's gone out of shot. There we go. I'm going to make another spiral. In the end. And you can keep these spirals open as well. You don't have to like close them and tighten it all up if you wanted to more of an open spiral look. You can just drape them over and do it that way. Try turning it around. I just sort of play around and go with my gut really as to when it's right. I think that needs to be further down, but I've now got more clay here than I needed, but I can frame the side, which is nice. Yeah, that looks good. And actually, do you know what? I'm gonna unroll this, turn it, and let it sit like that. That's nice. And this can just come around the back here, and we'll sort that out later. But this has a little gap here which I need to close up. Okay. Now I need a bit more clay, because I feel like it's going to be a little bit unbalanced. I've got more along here. Could do with a little something down this side. So again, making another sneaky worm. I might try and make this one a little bit thinner. We won't need all of that clay either. Should be big enough. Maybe too big. Yeah, it's going to be too big. How about going at the top? Yeah, sometimes stuff just happens. Get the urge. And I got the urge. Yeah, I'm going to frame this here. And create a little kink. And another. But I don't want it to overpower what's already there. No, that's fine. I'm going to wrap this around the back. And we're going to go up this side. Yeah. That can just tuck in underneath the top. Right. So I'm basically happy with where all of those sort of tubey, wormy, snaky things sit. So the next thing I'm going to do is add a few leaves around. Condition some more clay. I think I'm going to line this right side with more of these. Okay, roll out another little oval. And again, just gonna be looking at it, playing around, sticking these little shapes wherever feels right. They just can sort of sit next to each other, tuck in. We'll put some detail on them after, but I think I want one more just come in along the bottom. here. That's good. Okay. Now I can take my blade and I'm going to create the leaf from the bottom here, pushing up, nice smooth line, and then do the little details. And I'll do the same with these. Alright, that's good. I need some leaves around this side. And you can really go to town with the amount of detail you want on this, and keep it simple or just keep going and going. I'm trying to learn not to do too much because I just will always do loads and loads and loads, and I find it hard to keep it simple. Sometimes it just calls for a lot of detail. Pushing in, it helps to set it down as well when you do the detailing like this. It helps to kind of settle the pieces of clay together. I like to do some big ones and some small ones. Putting them at all different angles. So it's just kind of wild. I know this isn't the simplest of pendants to do a first tutorial on, but I was making it anyway, so I thought I might as well join some people in on it, because I've been meaning to do it for a long time. This can be quite time consuming, getting all the detail in. So yeah, just being patient. And watching the magic unfold. I think we need something up here. I need some more clay. So I'm just conditioning some more, because we're going to need actually to seal this up a little bit, I think, because if you look closely, you can kind of see the edge of the Kunzite and the clay underneath it. I want it all to look pretty sealed and seamless, so I'm going to incorporate some detail there to cover it up. You can use these details to cover imperfections as well, so it's kind of good in that way too. Right, and I'm going to keep that fairly thick so that there's a bit more strength to hold my stone in. Yeah, now this is going to go here, but I am going to use some translucent Sculpey here to stick this leaf down, because this will just give it a bit more strength when it's cured. Squeeze in this little gap, and then, do you know what, I want to just make sure that that is all inside that little hole there, and I'm going to use my leaf that I made, and I'm going to push it in. And actually I want to use my knife to put a little bit of this translucent Sculpey underneath the leaf to stick it down, because if it's got nothing to bind to, it's more likely to break. So just lifting that up, it's just a small amount will do, and pushing that down into my Kunzite here. That's quite a nice little accent there, and then I can get my blade again and create my leaf very gently so it doesn't slide around. Cool. Now I want some real tiny details up here just to dress this up in the corners. You can get really small with this. Now, yeah, I want to cover this, because I'm not so happy that I can see this join. So I'm going to use a little leaf here. And pop that over. To be honest, I can still see the joints. I'm going to do another leaf, but I'm going to do the details first. So do you know what, now I've squished that down, it's actually fine. Right, we're getting there. We've got a little gap here that I'd like to fill. I think I'm going to use a bit more translucent here to make sure all the little holes are filled up. Might just go straight in there actually. Not too much, yeah, that will do. Yeah, and I've come up a little bit on my rose quartz, but I don't mind that. I think that looks quite cool. And I want to frame that leaf with a couple more little ones next to it. We've got a bird. There's a bird there. Oh, it's not a leaf. Oh wow, let's give him a little set of tail feathers. I'm going to take my knife and blend that in. Just defining the edges. So I put some feather details down there, and he needs a little eye. So I'm going to use a really fine ball tool to give this bird, it might even be too thick. Do I have a thinner one? Nope. Okay. There we go. So I've got a surprise bird in this one, which is pretty cool. Now this is beginning to look more like I wanted it now. Not that I had an idea in my mind, but I'm becoming more and more pleased with what I'm seeing. So any little holes I like to just fill in extra detail. Maybe down the side, I think yeah. We're almost there, I think. I want a little bit more detail along this side. And also at the top. No, I need a smaller leaf again. Just in here maybe. There we go. Right in there. This is looking good. Now, what I want to do now is create these little balls, tiny little balls, almost like little berries. Do you know what? I'm not going to do them in pearl. I'm going to use a different colour. And I'm also going to do some magical moss. Now, I keep this bag of just small bits of scrap clay. So I'm just going to dig around in here and see what colour I want to use for my moss. Here we go, there's a couple of different greens. So I've blended, can you see that? Blended two types of green together. And then let's get this nicely conditioned. Oops. I actually want a bit more of a lighter green in there. More a warm green. Don't need much for this. But we want to squidge it just enough so that two colours are combined but not completely blended, because I want the two-tone of the two greens in it, because it gives it a nice effect. Okay, and then just kind of flatten this out. And there's this tool, my moss making tool, and I'm just gonna poke it loads of times. And I'll zoom in a bit so you can see what's going on here. Keep poking it and it'll just kind of stretch out. I want the ends to kind of fray and so it looks organic. Oops. That's it, just keep going at it until some comes off. Now I don't want tons of this stuff on here, just enough to give it a bit of, I don't know where I want it to go yet. Maybe some at the top would look good. There. There you go, and you can kind of just gently tap it on. Don't want it to overwhelm my spiral, so I'll just keep it out of the way. There we go, so we've got a pop of colour going on here We can tone the colour of that down later on with powders, finishes, so it won't necessarily look like that. Just taking some more of that moss. Put a little bit underneath my little bird. No, actually. No, not feeling that. At the side. Yeah. Maybe under this side. Yeah. And just in any little areas that you fancy. Is it a nice foresty vibe? But as I say, don't worry if you feel like the colour's too heavy, you can tone it down later. Maybe some in there. Bit bold, but I'm going to go for it. And that's like a little bird's nestlet. Alright, so I'm just going to balance that out with a bit more up here. Oh. Just kind of patting it on. A little bit up here would be nice. There we go. It's pretty cool. Oh, I didn't put any detail on this leaf. While I'm at it, actually, let's sort the back out, because look, this is a mess. We can't have that. Let's smooth this over with a ball tool. I find it best just to grip your stones at this point, or you're going to smush your clay. Just pushing it in, blending it with the base, getting rid of any harsh lines. It's going to look a bit rough, it's going to look a bit rustic, but it's all good. It's all part of the charm. Okay, can even push these in a little bit as well, just to strengthen that at the top. I like to stick my initials on the back at this point. Okay, turn it around. And that is almost there. We're so close now. I think I want a few little, tiny little spots of purple. You don't need to put any colour in it. You can carry on using your original colour or whatever you want really. You do coloured leaves or anything. I found that I used to do a lot of different colours into it, and then I found they were distracting from my stones, so I tend to keep it a bit more simple now. Oh no, the little bird's face. I smushed his face. Oh no. There's me talking about holding a stone. It's alright, little birdie. There we go. Yeah, it's a tiny, tiny little bit of this. We're going to make some like minuscule balls. So like minuscule. We're going to take the finest point you got in a ball tool, and then pick it up and stick it wherever you'd like to see it. I'm going to see there. Not coming off there now. A bit tricky to set down. Not many of these, because I don't want it to distract. Just enough to give it something. Push it down. I like little berries. And I love purple and green too. One more up here somewhere. Maybe there. And one more on the left side. Just need to go and get the door a second. Okay, I'm back. So I think we're there with this. What I want to do is just put a little bit of texture in here, and I want to open this bail back out. So I'm going to take the end of a tool. Make sure this is nice and open for the cord. Right, and I'm checking it over. And then I'm going to take a medium ball tool, and I'm going to do some texture. Just in any bits that are open, not that there's many bits to get to, but just adds a nice finished look to it. Like a stippling effect. And then one final thing another small ball tool. I'm going to add some dots over some of these lines with a smaller ball tube, sorry. Sets everything in place, gives it a bit more detail. I don't want to do it everywhere, just in some places. Maybe this middle line here. There we go. I'm going to put a little bit more detail on the top. And I think down this side would look good too. One more down here. Okay, and we can move on to the next bit. Right, so I've got some, these are just makeup powders that I picked up locally. They're not pricey or anything, they were just from Superdrug actually. And these will suffice for what we need, so I'm using this shade here. Just a nice sort of subtle gold, and I'm going to take my brush, just a makeup brush, and lightly go over certain areas that I want to give a little shimmer to, a little highlight, like this green. And this will just dull down the green and make it blend in a little bit more with the rest of it. You just dab in the pigment on. Like so. There we are, and I can take a larger brush and just go over all of it, a little bit of this gold. And this just gives it a really magical, ethereal finish. There we go. Okay. here we have it. We'll zoom in. All done. Well, it will need curing actually, and this I will probably cure for about 50 minutes at 130 in my oven. But if you made it this far to the end of the video, thank you, and let me know what you think.